Hello, I'm Mr. Steinauer, and this is 3rd and 4th grade science. Today we're talking about energy and the different kinds of energy. All you'll need for today's lesson is a notebook or something to write on and something to write with. That's going to help you make your own chart, which I will be doing, to show different kinds of energy and to categorize them by the kinds of energy that they are. Now, what is energy? It's simple. Energy is the ability to do work. Now, what is work? Is work something you get paid for? Is work something your parents or your loved ones ask you to do? No. Work is anything. It can be drinking water. It can be putting on your clothes. It can be getting up out of bed. It can be writing something down on paper. It can be eating. It can be stretching. It can be driving a car. It can be walking up a hill. Work is anything that takes energy because energy is the ability to do work. And in science, work just means doing something involving movement. So today we're going to learn about the variety of kinds of energy, and we'll also be listing some examples of that. So let's get started. All right, so to begin, we're going to make a diagram together. Now, remember, a diagram is something that is a way of sharing information, and it's got labels and a simply made image or chart that expresses the information that you're trying to share. So our diagram of energy is going to start out with one word, and then around that we're going to have petals like a flower. That's going to be our types of energy diagram. About midway through the page, about the middle of your page, write the word energy. Then you're going to draw a circle around energy. There are 8 types of energy that we're going to be introduced to today. You're going to pick a spot to start, and then as you make your flower, your energy flower diagram, you're going to eventually have 8 petals. So let's go ahead and kind of draw those out. Draw 8 petals, so I'm going to draw about 4 of them down here on the bottom, and then I'm going to draw 4 on top. Make sure to make your petals nice and big. And see, I've got plenty of room to write here. If you've got more than one color that you can choose, this would be a great time to get creative. One kind of energy that we interact with all the time is gravitational. Gravitational. The root word of gravitational is gravity. So any of the forces involving gravity, whether we're trying to get away from gravity or being pulled down by gravity, that's gravitational energy. A second kind of energy we're going to talk about is chemical energy. Now, you may not know exactly how to spell a lot of these words, so I'm going to underline the root part of these words. Chem is a shortened version of chemical. Grav is a shortened version of gravitational. Chemical energy comes from, surprise, chemicals. But we often think of chemicals as things that are only in labs, in science labs, but that's not true. There are chemicals in your food. There are chemicals in the drinks that we drink. There are chemicals in medicine that we take. And there are chemicals in the air, right? We just think of them as air, as, well, oxygen's oxygen. It's not a chemical. It is a chemical. So when we say chemical energy, that can include a lot of things. One way to think of chemical energy is to think of the energy we get from eating. Our body breaks down the chemicals inside of food, and we use those for our own energy. So an example of chemical energy is us getting our own energy from eating food. Another kind of energy is mechanical energy. What's the root of mechanical? If I'm going to underline in green, a shortened version of mechanical for you to write if you'd like. Which part am I going to underline? Mech, M-E-C-H is what I'm going to underline. So again, if you are feeling stressed on time because of our pace, you can just write this shortened version of the word in your energy flower diagram. These are all different kinds of energy. Another kind of energy that powers this screen, powers the tablet that I'm using, powers the screen that you're watching this on. What's that called? You might have said electrical. Electricity and magnetism are actually one force, one kind of energy. So we call that electromagnetism. Electromagnetism is all one word, but I'm already seeing I'm not going to have a lot of space. So I'm going to put a hyphen there. Electromagnetism. There are two components, two parts to electromagnetism. So the ones I'm going to underline, I'm actually going to underline two different parts of this. I'm going to underline elec and mag. So if you are feeling short on time for writing, you can write elec mag. One example of electromagnetic energy, electromagnetism, is lightning storms. Another example is a refrigerator magnet sticking to the refrigerator. And a third example is the lights all around you, the lights all around me. We get these from electromagnetic energy. Electromagnetic energy also is the category that visible light itself falls into. We use electrical power to provide all these lights that we have around us, and all these lights around us are also an example of electromagnetic energy. Anything that's within the spectrum of light, what we call sometimes the UV spectrum, ultraviolet spectrum, all of that is included in electromagnetic energy. I'm now going to list two more kinds of energy. They're energy that you learn quite a bit about in first grade and second grade. You learn a lot about lights and sounds in first grade, and in second grade you learn a lot about the states of matter. States of matter change because of heat energy, also called thermal energy. Thermal. We're not going to shorten that one. We're just going to include it because it's a pretty short word on its own. Thermal, think thermometer. This thermal is heat energy. Thermal is heat. Now the word for sound energy is also the word for everybody's favorite hedgehog, sonic. An example of sonic energy is energy coming from my vocal cords into your ear. All right, moving along. The next energy here is something that in fourth grade you learn quite a bit about. That's potential and kinetic energy. This is the category of the energy based on something's location. So if something's very high up, it has high potential energy. While something is on the move, it has high kinetic energy. So potential and kinetic. We're going to shorten potential and kinetic to POT and KIN if you're shortening. POT for potential, the energy something has based on its location, and kinetic, KIN, for the energy of motion. The final kind of energy is an energy that we don't actually interact with often in our normal day-to-day lives. This is nuclear energy. While we don't think that we interact with nuclear energy on a regular basis, nuclear energy is inside of us. It's inside of our atoms. It's inside of the things that make us up. And by understanding how we can actually split atoms and we can break apart molecules and unlock the energy trapped within their nuclei or their nucleuses, we can have nuclear power. Now, when we think of nuclear energy, we often think of nuclear power plants, nuclear reactors, even nuclear bombs. But when we talk about nuclear energy, it can be related to nuclear power, but it's also talking about the energy inside of atoms and inside of molecules that can be accessed by breaking those open or by combining them with another atom or molecule. So there are 8 kinds of energy that we're going to focus on in the coming weeks and days. So keep your energy flower diagram so that you can continue to reference this as you build on your understanding of energy and as we work together to do so. Now, something you might do after you finish this, something I would push you to do after you've finished your energy flower. Go around to as many as you can. Draw a petal that goes out beyond them and name an example of a form of this energy. So electromagnetic, I might write magnet. I could also write when I turn my lights on. That's an example of electromagnetism. Or the colors that I'm able to see. That's also an example of electromagnetism. I'm not going to go around and do that with each one, and neither are you. Find 1, 2, or 3 of these kinds of energy, make an extended flower petal, and inside of that new flower petal, list some examples of this kind of energy. As always, it's been my pleasure having you in class today. My name is Mr. Steinauer, and I'll see you next week.